Hello, and welcome to the Brad Beldon Show, your go-to podcast for all things roofing, the latest buzz in San Antonio, local politics, and just about anything else under the sun. I'm excited about today's guest, Benny Fisher, founder and visionary of the Big Fish Contracting Company in Pittsburgh and host of the Big Fish Cares podcast. Wow, what a cool day. We've been friends for a long time. I told you, Benny, you're going to be one of my first guests when I started a podcast. You laughed, and look, we're here today. Benny's going to share his insights on virtually everything in the world. Benny, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me, Brad. I'm really excited that you finally took the leap and you got yourself your own podcast. You've done a great job with the studio from everything I've seen on social media. I'm excited on my next trip to San Antonio to see it in person. But well done, man. You definitely did it big time, and I like it.
Thank you. Thank you. You know, one of our friends or consultants came in about a sales consultant, and he asked us about the studio, and he asked Danny, well, who built the studio for y'all? Like we did. No, really. Who built it? Us and YouTube. And he's like, no, really. I'm like, yeah, we actually learned how to do it on our own. I mean, there's so much stuff out there, and it doesn't matter what the widget is, right? Whether it's roofing for you and me or anything else. There's so much information out there at your fingertips that you can virtually do anything you want to do.
That's what I love about America and the internet.
So, Benny, before we start, I got 4 kids. Evie's going to be, 17, 18 months? The terrible twos are right around the corner. Are you ready for it?
Yeah, she's already getting sassy, so I feel like the terrible twos might already be here. But she's a doll, man. She's a joy to be around. I have a 9-year-old as well, but I wasn't very present. I was building my business when he was a little baby. And so now that I have the gift of being able to be so present with her and I get to enjoy all the little stuff, all the good stuff, even when she does number 2 everywhere, like it's still okay. She's definitely got a personality. We got her in more stuff. Brittany has her in swim class, gymnastics, music. She may even be learning to speak a foreign language at this point. I don't really know all the stuff that I didn't even know babies could get in all that stuff, but here we are, and she's definitely very versatile. So I'm excited to see what the future holds for her.
It's your first daughter.
First daughter.
So I can tell you with 3 that your life is over with. And I'll give you a perfect example. Coming back to the office from lunch, one of our daughters called and said, Dad, thanks for the Stanley Cup. I said, I hope you loved it. She said, I loved it as much as your note. I said, great. She said, you wrote to my favorite 23-year-old. And and she's 27. And wow. I'm like, oh, I sent it to the wrong daughter. No, I knew she was 27. I just did the math wrong in my head.
Oh, okay. All right. Yeah.
So you're going to get in trouble for the rest of your life, Benny.
Well, yeah, I mean, but you know what? I can always call my friend Brad Beldon for any advice because, as she hits, 7, 8, 10, 12, and then probably 16 is when I'm really going to need the advice. At least you're only a phone call away.
Well, Benny, I will tell you, same daughter used to slam her door, and she was about 12 or 13. And I kept telling her, if you keep slamming that door, I'm just going to take it off the hinges. And one night she slammed it, went to the garage, grabbed my tools, took the door off, off the hinges, carried it downstairs, put it in the garage. She had talked to me for a week. But you know what? She never slammed that door again.
Yeah, well, there was no door. How long did it take you to put it back on?
Oh, about 30 seconds. I'm not too bad with my.
No, I know, but like how long? Like
we kept it off for a week.
Oh, you kept it off for a week. Okay.
Yeah, but she got smart. She just went and slept with one of her sisters, so she had a door.
Because they have to have their privacy, right?
They need their privacy. Yeah.
Yeah.
So Benny, your story with Big Fish Contracting, one of the coolest stories I've ever heard. You've spoken at so many events I've been at, and the first event I was at when you spoke, I came up to you, I don't know if you remember, and I shook your hand and said, Benny, I've never heard a story like that. You've done everything with all on your own with the deck, everything against you. And yet you've managed to be extremely successful. and you've built a company with an incredible culture. Your team loves you. How did that happen, and how did it transform over the years?
Well, I feel like it happened because I feel like God's always been watching over me, and probably always his plan's probably bigger than my plan. And I feel like he's always had a guiding hand, even in some of the terrible things that I feel like, I went through, that I had to go through. Some of those stories that you heard, like, very tough to get through, very tough to even hear about, and to be able to come out of that and overcome that adversity. I look back and think, like, God was always with me. Sometimes I probably just didn't realize it. I wasn't aware because, you're in the thick of it. You're in the mess, right? You're in the stuff. But I realized he's got a bigger purpose for my life. And I think that he allowed me to go through those things so I could share my story, right? And on platforms like this, on stages like a Best of Success. And so I really appreciate this opportunity to be here. But I would say that, just a lot of times I got myself into a lot of messed up situations. I started my career out when I was 18 years old. I had a choice, right, to go to college or, try to go get a job. And back in 1999, that was kind of like the thing to do, man. You got to go to college, right? They were pushing that everywhere. And I never really liked school to begin with. Never really got the best grades. I was always a smart kid, but never applied myself or focused. I had trouble, with that. They diagnosed me with ADHD when I was 7 or 8 years old. Teachers always had some issues with me. They didn't really know how to navigate Benny, right? And my parents didn't really know how to navigate Benny. Shoot, I mean, there's still people today that don't know how to navigate Benny. And so Benny's getting better at navigating himself. And so I'm a lot easier to deal with probably than I was when I was 7 to like 20. So I went out and I tried college, and I lasted for about 3 weeks, and I saw a ad in a newspaper that said you can make $100,000 a year by selling cars, but you have to come and pay $500 to go through a 2-week sales training class. And I'm like, well, I'm paying like, I don't know, $10,000 or $7,000, whatever the semester was for college. I can't remember, because I was paying that out of my own pocket. My parents had 4 kids at the time. They weren't paying. They were middle class America. They didn't have no money to pay for my college. So I'm like, all right, well, I want to go do it myself. So I think I had saved up $4 or $5 grand from just working jobs in high school, like grocery store and, selling baseball cards and things like that. I realized that college sucked. I realized that it was just like high school, but like my mom wasn't
expensive.
my mom wasn't really making me go every day. So I actually had to force myself to go, and that was painful. And so, and I couldn't justify the money. I'm like, man, I can't believe I'm paying all this money. I said, just feels like death. And so I said, you know what? I'm going to pay $500. I'm going to go get me an sales training education or certificate, whatever they called it. And I'm going to go sell cars and make $100 grand, because that would be more money than anybody in my family was making at the time. And I was like, all right, I can say I made it, right? Cause like that was the American dream. And so, I went to sell cars and I ended up getting fired every 6 months in the car business. I would do really well, but then I'd have ideas. I'd have questions. Managers didn't really know how to deal with me. And they would fire me because they'd get mad, or I'd get bored and like, maybe I wouldn't show up. I don't know what happened. I'm sure it was a little bit of both. And I started to really doubt my abilities, right? I'm like, man, but I really don't want to go back to college. Like it kept haunting me, right? Because at this time, my friends are graduating from college. They're getting decent jobs. I'm like, man, I'm feeling really low and depressed. So I'm like, I'll just try something else. I'll try mortgages. So this was before the mortgage crisis in like 2008.
9.
Yeah, this was like 2005, 2006. I go to work for GE, General Electric. They had a money division. And
GE Capital, right?
Yeah, GE Capital. Yep. Yeah. And so I started doing mortgages, and eventually one day we walked in and like they were shut down. They wouldn't even let you go to the desk because they saw the writing on the wall from the mortgage crisis and stuff like that, the countrywide scandals. Back then, not what I know now. We were on a headset. We were calling people in California from Canton. I was born and raised in Canton, Ohio. We were calling people in California, trying to get anybody that could breathe on a phone. And I was following a script, right? Like on a computer, almost just like this. I had a headset on. I'm reading a script. I'm just talking, right? I'm just talking through it. And I think my car sales, ability, my tonality was good on the phone. And so I would get these people to do like stated income mortgages. Like I didn't know what I was doing, but now I look back and I'm like, that's why the whole thing crashed. Cause like, they have kids that they're training how to do $700,000 jumbo mortgages with people in California that don't even really have the income to do it. They're doing interest only,
So you're
payments.
responsible for the collapse of
Well,
2008.
I wasn't. I didn't know what we were doing. But anyway, long story short, they shut down, right? They saw the writing on the wall. And they're like, yeah, you can reapply for another job at G Money if you want in 6 months. I went and got a job at Verizon Wireless. I'm thinking like, all right, like going from car sales, the mortgages, like where else can I like have some fun, right? Oh, technology. I can go sell BlackBerries at Verizon. So I got a job at the mall kiosk. I did really, really well at that. I was selling like 10 phones a day. And, I was basically back then in 2000, this is like 2006, 2007-ish. Grandmas and grandpas still didn't have cell phones like that. Not all of them had cell phones yet. It was still, a little bit taboo. So that was, I don't even think there was an iPhone. It was just the BlackBerry. I was selling BlackBerries, Blackberries, Motorola Qs, the LG music phone. They started to do the flip with the keyboard typing. Yeah. But like once I did really well at that, I got bored with that. Like, like once you're the top person in a mall kiosk, like I'm like, all right, now what? Like I just don't want to keep doing it over and over and over again. So I'd start talking to the girls down at Victoria's Secret and the shoe store. I'd go down to the food court and you started being more social, Benny. And they didn't really like that much. And so I ended up getting fired from that job. And so I was at a part. I was at a party.
Oh my God, Benny, you've had 5 jobs before your friends got out of college.
Oh, listen, I had so much more experience than all my boys getting out of college. The problem is I just didn't have consistency and I kept feeling inside. I felt like
I've never heard this, Benny. You left all this out of all your public speaking.
Well, they don't have 2 hours. So like I'm giving you the dirty backstory. Okay.
So job number 6.
Oh no, I had like multiple car jobs. Just so you know, I had probably 7 dealerships I worked for and got hired and fired from. How about this, Brad? One dealership, I got hired, I got fired, I got hired back, fired again, and fired again. The same guy hired me 3 times and fired me 3 times. Talk about his emotional stability. And then me, I'm like, yeah, I'll come back. I just want to serve you. I love you. Like, I'll do anything. Like, I look back and think
you're a public speaker, a business consultant, and a comedian.
Yeah, if you think that's funny, I guess I'm funny then. It was definitely very interesting. That's what I'd say. It taught me a lot. So I ended up going to a party one night. It was like a bachelor party. And I remember I got a little bit tipsy. I had never done any drugs because I grew up in a very strong Christian Baptist home. And, I was afraid to do anything wrong. Part of the reason probably why I rebelled a little bit in, my 20s. Did a little bit of drinking, ended up doing some drugs that night, felt really good, told one of my other friends about it, said, man, you got to try this. This is really good. Did some cocaine. Next thing you know, I'm selling drugs to people like at nightclubs and, colleges and things like that. And I wasn't really good at it. But it did like put cash in my pocket and I didn't have to like go get a real job and I didn't have to go to school. And the best part though, was I felt like I was needed. And I felt like there was a community of people that really, really wanted what I had. And that felt really special because that was the first time in my life that I ever felt like people wanted what I had. Now, it's a little backwards because it's drugs, but when you're in it, and people sometimes, if you've never been in it, you don't really understand like, wow, why do people do drugs? Why do people sell drugs? There's like this sense of feeling that you get in this community that sometimes if you never had that anywhere else, and that's the only place you have it, then it becomes attractive, right? And I can see why people stay in it. And it got to the point one time where my distribution shut down, right? Like I couldn't get my product, right? Kind of like in the roofing industry. Like if you can't get product from your supplier, like you got to go find another supplier. Well, in the drug game, like that supplier, like if you don't have another cool, connect person that like is like a real person that like you can kind of trust, that doesn't carry guns and things like that. Well, if you don't have that, then you got to go down, downtown into the street and start door knocking. And like try to find a brother from another mother and see if he'll like sell you something. And so I did that. And I ended up, one thing led to another, and it ended up getting robbed at gunpoint, pistol whipped over my head. My car got stolen. I was in the hospital for a night. I was so embarrassed. I would never even tell my mom because like I was, she would know that I was in trouble and I didn't want to tell her that. So I basically just dealt with all that on my own. Figured out how to get through it. I was still a knucklehead though, very stubborn. You know, a couple weeks go by, I'm running out of money. I'm like, well, I got to get back into it. My guy came back, my normal connect came back, started, give me product again. I did it for like another 2 years. And eventually the FBI, the township, the county cops, they all raided my house. Somebody ratted me out because they wanted to get off a DUI charge. It was one of the best things that ever happened to me though, because it stopped me dead in my tracks. It humbled me and said like, hey, and I know this was God talking. God was like, Ben, like you shouldn't be doing these things, like get back on the right path. And so at that time I had to move in with my sister. I moved into her basement, which if you know my sister, that was actually the worst torture and the worst hell on earth that I ever experienced probably. And if she's listening, I hope she doesn't listen because I'm kind of joking. It was really awesome that she took me in, but it was very humbling and she told me about it every day. But then I started to, I had to go through the court system. I was up, I thought I was going to prison for 2 years. But because I was a good kid, never had a bad record, I got back in church, I started doing community service at my church. And it was funny because the community service I was able to get credit for this. The church needed me to take old sermons and upload them on their website so they could have digital copies of like old sermons that were on cassette tape. And that was my 100 hours of community service that I was able to do while I was going through the court system, which I thought was pretty cool.
And you knew how to do it.
Little fun fact. Yeah. I mean, cause I've been doing media and content since I was in high school. And so that was cool. I was able to like just get probation and house arrest. So I didn't ever have to go to jail. Thank God. Cause I would have been very not fitting in there. I can tell you that. But then I was stuck. I got a job at a $9 an hour call center, like, soliciting, I was doing like telemarketing for blood donations. I mean, like I couldn't get a job anywhere with felonies on your account. Definitely couldn't get any corporate jobs, didn't really want to go back to school. I felt really, really low. And though my uncle calls me up. And my uncle has been roofing in Pittsburgh for his whole life, because he met his wife at college and went to Pittsburgh and ended up getting a roofing job because he started a family and needed money. And he was working his way up and he had just started his own commercial roofing company. And he was about 1 year in. He said, hey, come over here to Pittsburgh, start a new life. I could use some help with sales and marketing and we'll figure it out. And like, I got you. And so I just told my mom, I'm like, hey, I was like, I'm going to Pittsburgh. And she was like, man, she's like, what if he can't pay you every week? And I'm like, Mom, I'm making $9 an hour in a call center around a bunch of other people that are in the same boat as I am. I said, ain't nothing happening here. But my mom was always the one that always wanted me to play it safe. She always wanted me to play conservative. She never liked it if I had a commission sales job, right? Like she thought that was too risky. But me, I always wanted to say it again.
Was it her brother?
Yeah, it was her brother. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, but like he was the first one that ever started a business in the family. Like she never knew any real business people before because like, she worked at a hospital her life. My stepdad works in a steel mill, very, they grew up on a farm. It's not like they're not like a third, fourth, fifth generation like business owner, right? And so they I just moved. I just picked up and moved and I started new life. My credit score was probably 550 at the time because that all got messed up. I had felony on my account. I owed $1,200 to my uncle because he had to pay my fines to get the court permission for me to move to Pittsburgh. So I owed him $1,200 and then he started paying me $400 a week. This was in 2010. And that was my entrance into this roofing industry.
$400 a week.
Yeah. Which again, for me, like I was just happy. I was just happy to like not have to work in that call center. And he gave me a truck to drive and I got to play office a little bit and I would go into the office and I'd learn about roofing from him. And then he'd make me go out in the field and make me do work. And I was on lots of commercial roofs. I remember tearing stuff off, putting stuff on, running material places, trying to learn how to measure flat roofs and measure curbs. We did a lot of Duralast and, I was trying to learn as much as I could because like I was like, all right, cool. This is my new fresh start. I'm going to take over. This is going to be awesome. My cousin was actually one of the roofers. And I was like, yeah, this is going to be fun. Plus I got to learn a little bit about small business and I never had seen small business before. And, working there for a few years, I learned a lot of cool stuff about just, small business, networking, how to treat people, like, business relationships, knowing I always wanted to honor him and do a good job for him. So I always had to impress, these clients, your typical commercial roofing clients, your property managers, your architects, the building owners, things like that. And so I was like, man, this is by chance. Like I can be somebody. And so I really just like dived into that identity. And, but one thing that he wanted me to learn, he's like, I need you to learn marketing. And I'm like, all right. So I thought marketing back then was, yellow pages, billboard.
It was yellow pages back then.
McDonald's. I mean, that's what he was doing. And he had a little ad in the yellow pages. Right. And I was like, all right, yeah, I know how to use this internet thing. So I got on the internet. And in 2012, I remember finding a guy named Gary V on there. And I started listening to Gary and I was just like, wow. I said, this guy can teach me marketing. I said, so that's cool. But every time I had an idea that I wanted to try to implement in my uncle's business, well, first, he didn't really want to spend the money and he thought the idea was stupid. And this is also the same guy. And I love my uncle to death. I also found Eagle View on the internet one day because I was trying to figure out like different things I could learn about in roofing. And I found Eagle View and I thought I just hit the lottery because as I was learning commercial roofing, because that was his bread and butter, we were also building a small little residential business because he'd have a lot of customers that had houses and like, they want to get them done. And so we'd be doing residential houses on the weekends. And I really liked the residential thing because I really like making homeowners happy. But I really hated measuring the roofs because they were always like cut up and there's triangles and there's hips and ridges and they got real complex. And I'm like, my brain would hurt, but trying to figure out all the math. I mean, I was good at the math because I would use on the architectural drawings for flat roofs, I would learn how to use the ruler, because I took a mechanical drawing class in high school. So I was really good at doing takeoffs and like drawing on grids, like of existing roofs. And I had fun, like plotting out roofs for like 3 years. I had a lot of fun doing that part. After a while though, I got really bored with it. Cause like once I like mastered it, I was like, all right, like this is boring. So then I found this Eagle View product and I told him about it. And he's like, I don't need that. He's like, why would I need you if I'm going to pay Eagle View? And I sat for a second and I said, I hear what you're saying. I said, but if I can get these measurements done instead of taking me 2 hours to measure a roof and like make sure like these are exact, they're right. It's only like $20 or $30 or whatever it was. I said, I'll be able to get to more appointments. I'll be able to do more. And so that was always a fight, but we got that going. But he's, at the time he never had a CRM. I'm like, hey, can we get a CRM? Nah, we were using legal pads and the manila folders and spreadsheets. Then we'd print stuff out on spread. Yeah, it was very old school. And so we always butted heads a little bit with the technology and the marketing. And eventually, we parted ways. He fired me one day. He said I was getting ready to go on vacation with my family. I was all excited. It was my first, I had gotten married at the time, divorced now from her, but had a kid. He was like 1 year old at the time, and I was going to take my first family vacation. I saved up some money. I saved up a few $1,000 and getting ready to go to North Carolina to the beach with her family. And I'm all pumped, man. Like I got the vehicle loaded up and ready to go. And he texted me and said, hey, there's a job going up there that like your crew is like, the crew's not really doing the right things. And I said, hey, I'm on vacation. I said, can you send somebody else up to handle it? I said, like, I'm leaving. Like this trip's planned. And he sent me a text message, and I said, he's like, I think you should go sell roofs for someone else. Cause I wasn't going to stop my vacation. He was always one of those guys that would always send the kids and wives on vacation. And he would always stay back to do all the work, right? Because sometimes the business owner becomes the business, right? When all the problems have to go through them. And I was like, man, like I really want to go on vacation. And there were some other things that me and him probably butted heads on. Again, no different than when I was in my 20s, like back in my early 20s, and all the issues with managers and people, or all my ideas and stuff. I think he just, got emotional, probably got fed up with it a little bit, and that's what happened. We're good now. He told me a couple years ago that he's really proud of me. But
is he still in business today?
Oh yeah, he's really successful. Yeah, he's super successful. Yeah, we're both successful. See, there's a lot of roofs out there for everybody. But I only focus on residential. He really loves commercial. And but at that point, I was faced with a decision to make, because I think you wanted to talk about that little journey about why I started Big Fish. And I was like, I can either go work for another big commercial roofing company. And at the time, are you familiar with Burns and Scalo?
Yeah, I know Jack very well.
Yeah. And so like, that's the big boy in town here in Pittsburgh. That's the cool looking company. They get like, they do some cool stuff. They're not just the old school, like, I'm like, I could go work for them. Right. That'd probably take me in a minute. Cause like, who wouldn't? Like if you're with all the skills that I knew how to do at the time, like you'd be crazy not to, but I knew I'd probably get in the same exact position. And eventually I'd have my own ideas and I want to do my own thing. And it's like, I know how to do, I can at least handle residential roofing. Commercial, I wasn't really interested in it. A lot of liability, a lot of problems, big money, but big problems, right? Big chances that you got to take. And I said, but I can do homeowner stuff. I can do 10, 15, $20,000 jobs, wham, bam, get in, get out, make sure the customer's happy. I love customer service. So I basically took everything I knew about sales from my whole career in sales, everything I started to learn about marketing, and everything that I knew about this roofing industry, because at the time in Pittsburgh, it was a lot of chucking of trucks, a lot of one-man bands, guys and crews, a bunch of, they didn't really do Hispanic sub crews back then. And so like there was no companies doing over like 2,000 squares of shingles ever. That was unheard of. And so, and I didn't care about the quantity. I just knew I could do it different. I knew I could implement everything I knew about customer service, everything I was learning about this technology that the roofing industry had to offer, make a really great customer experience, and then make a really cool brand, right? Because Gary Vee kept saying, it's all about brand. It's all about brand. So I'm like, what are we going to call this thing? And the best name that I could come up with was the Big Fish Contracting Company, because, my last name is Fisher and I'm not a small guy. The only problem with that is
I did not know that either. I've learned a lot today.
That's why they call it the Big Fish, man, because I'm Benny Fisher and I'm not a small guy.
That's pretty good. Okay.
So when I tell that to customers, so that's funny, right? So like when a homeowner's like, what do you call it Big Fish? And I tell them exactly that. My last name's Fisher and I'm not a small guy. Every single person starts to giggle.
Yeah, I'd never heard that story.
Yeah. Well, I just assume that like, once it's Benny Fisher and you see the Big Fish, I just assume that like, I don't know. I guess I just assumed that people would figure it out and like laugh later. I don't know. But anyway, so when I market tested the name, right? Because I was really afraid that like, just put something out there. Like, are people going to like it? Like, I was always worried like if other people were going to like stuff. I've learned that I got to like not really care about if other people are going to like it. Just go with where your heart is. But I told my mom or I told somebody, I'm like, I'm going to call it Big Fish. They're like, they're going to think that you like rent boats on Three Rivers. They're going to think that you sell fish sandwiches down at Steeler games. Like, you can't call it the Big Fish Contracting Company. And I told, me, I'm stubborn. And I said, you know what? I said, I think I actually can. And I said, because you say I can't, makes me want to do it even more. And after I become the #1 customer focused residential retail roofing company in Pittsburgh, they're going to know that Big Fish means roofing, not the other way around.
That's good.
And that's what we've done, man. That's what I've been working so hard for over the last 8 years to do that. And I mean, we build an incredible brand. We're not the biggest roofing company. I'd like to think we're the best at customer service. I think that, I was the first one in the market, I will tell you, to do business the way that you see a lot of these companies doing business today in Pittsburgh. But there's been a lot of other companies that kind of like latched onto that model of like technology. A lot of the more younger guys are getting in, and so they're able to scale faster because, maybe they're better at that side of the business. Me, man, I'm all about like trying to like, brand and make sure that we have good relationships. We have integrity. We serve others. We're enthusiastic. I'm not really good at scaling a sales team. Like I don't, I'm good at sales, but I don't know how to scale and train salespeople like left and right and get them, motivated. Like some of these, you see some of these companies and, they go from 0 to 20 million, like overnight. I'm like, how do you do that? I'm like, so I take my hats off to those guys, but that's my story on how I started.
Benny, though, you said something that's very intriguing. And we experienced the same thing here, 78 years in business. And what's happened, in my opinion, is social media levels the playing field. It eliminates the years of service, and everybody thinks that the finished product is the same because somebody's a better marketer. And it goes back to what you said about integrity, doing it right, taking care of the customer. If you're not putting 6 nails in the shingle and you're putting 3 nails in the shingle, it may look great on day 1. It may look great 12 months, but it's not going to last the same amount of time.
Just wait for that first windstorm.
Right. And so I think that's a challenge that both you and I face in the marketplace. And because it used to be, Benny, I've been in this business 42 years now, but it used to be that we controlled the whole supply chain, right? We brought the shingles to the office, we delivered them in a 2-ton truck, we carried them up the ladder. Now the supply houses, they deliver the shingles, you tear off, and they're delivering the shingles the same day. Um, and the crews are massive sizes, and you're in and out in a day or two. It's just changed a lot,
Mhm.
and doesn't mean that it's worse. It's changed, and that means that companies like yours and mine, we have to up our game. Even higher than what we were doing in the A game. And what a incredible ride, Benny. And I assume that because of all this, that's how you got into public speaking and consulting, because I mean, you're able to talk to I've seen you talk in front of small crowds, large crowds, crowds of people that really didn't share a lot of common ground. And I'm just in awe over your ability to do that. I remember when I was young and my dad used to tell me about I was always nervous about speaking in front of people, and I overcame that fear a long time ago. But my dad used to tell me, it doesn't matter how many people are out there. Everybody has butterflies, but if your butterflies are flying in formation, you'll do fine. And every time I hear you speak, it's so natural. You're caring, and I'm just fascinated by your story. And I thought I knew the whole story until today, and I'm finding out more and more things about you today that even make it a better story.
Well, thank you for that. That really makes me feel good. Yeah, public speaking is definitely like the number one fear of most human beings. And I didn't get into this on like purpose. I feel like for me, people were very, once I started, because I was ashamed of my story for a long time, right? Like a lot of us are, like, we're always ashamed of the bad things or maybe the things that didn't go so well. And so we're kind of like afraid to talk about things like that. Everybody wants to talk about their wins, and that's kind of easy to talk about, but it's really hard to be open, honest, vulnerable, and be able to share some of those things, even one on one with someone, let alone in front of a small group, a big group. But once I started realizing the power, the healing power that I had from my personal life to be able to like open up and tell someone, even if I'm just talking to you one on one and no one else is listening, for me to tell that story to you like 5 years ago, like would have been very embarrassing. I'm like, I would have thought like, oh wow, Brad Beldon, this big successful commercial roofer, like I can't tell him that like I got fired 7 times and I'm like kind of screw up and I like did all this, because in my mind that was my identity for a long time, because I didn't have anybody. I didn't have a mentor. I never had anybody like, kind of feeding me good stuff too. Right. Like, so like basically it was just this, my own noggin, which again was filled with like a lot of like what the world has around you. And it's hard to get out of that. It wasn't until I started to invest in like, other like masterminds and courses and different networks. And it was through the roofing industry. I remember my Beacon rep invited me to an IRE one time, and that's when I met, our friend, Ryan Groff. And I remember seeing him and I was like, man, like that guy looks like he's got a cool thing going. Like, like this roofing thing can like be like, you don't have to be like you don't have to look like a roofer to be successful in the roofing business.
Benny, I wear a
And
tie every day because of that.
well, and that's awesome, right? And I didn't know that. I never saw that. You gotta remember, man, Pittsburgh's a little different market. And maybe San Antonio is too. I don't
No,
know,
no,
but
I wear a tie because people perceive what you and I do as bottom tier. You know, we're not perceived as professionals, and
right.
so I wear a
Yeah.
tie every day because I want people to know that roofing contractors are professionals.
Well,
Our
you're a smart man.
our widget,
Um,
yeah, our widget just happens to be a roof, right?
yeah, I totally agree with you. And so as I started kind of expanding out there, and then I met like guys like Joseph Hughes and Ryan Shantz from Sumo Quote, Joseph Hughes from Contractor Dynamics. And you just meet a lot of good guys, right? Meeting guys like you. And I realized the first time that I was able to, Dimitri somehow found out a little bit about my story. And I can't remember. Somebody must have leaked some of my story to him because I had never shared my story publicly ever. And he called me up. It was probably just, maybe a year and a half ago. And maybe, a year and a half ago, 2 years. I can't remember exactly when. And he wanted me to come up and be on his podcast. And I remember just basically just letting it all out. Like I just let it all flow out. And because I knew I needed to do that, right? I was starting to tell my story. Like I started to speak on a couple of industry events. And I would tell little pieces and parts of it, but you only get 20, 30 minutes. So like it's really hard. But to be able to do that and kind of just let it all out. And then the reception that I got from that, even when I met you at Best of Success a couple of years ago, and I told my story and you came up to me, like for the first time in my life, it's like, wow, like it's okay to like just be your authentic self and your true self. People, the great people and the good people out there are going to love you for who you are. And I just got like, I don't know, more and more people would do that. And that was my new dopamine, because my history, like I got in trouble with drugs. I almost died of a drug overdose in 2017. There was a lot of terrible things that I would go through because I was trying to get that feeling of like acceptance. Well, when I started sharing my story to try to help inspire other people to overcome the things that they're going through, and people would give me that feedback, that's fueling, man. Like that's the only drug I ever need. Like,
But Benny, that is why people love you, because it doesn't have to be drugs. Everybody has challenges, right?
yeah, absolutely.
And the fact that you are willing to take your clothes off and share that story with everybody, and expose yourself, I think people, that resonates with a lot of people. It certainly resonated with me. None of us are perfect. We're all human beings. We make mistakes every day, and my goal is what I tell our team is, we look at what we did right yesterday, we look at what we did wrong yesterday, and what are we going to do today to improve? And if we improve 1% every day, compounded annually, we're going to be really good people.
I like that.
But we talk about the big fish. So I'm starting to put everything together. You're from Pittsburgh.
Well, I'm from Canton, Ohio. I moved to Pittsburgh
Okay, you moved to
14 years
Pittsburgh.
ago.
Okay,
Yeah.
but the big fish, I mean, I love Permani Brothers. I'm assuming you're probably going there like 5 times a week. And for those in our audience who have no idea what I'm talking about, back before they found out what was causing all my ailments, you get to eat your French fries inside your sandwich instead of on the side of your sandwich. I mean, what's it like to live in a town that has the best damn sandwich in the world?
I feel like we're doing a commercial for Permani Brothers. Maybe they'll have to sponsor your show. So at first, when I first moved here, like, yes, I was just like the way you're receiving it. I'm like, yeah, I got to go to Permani Brothers. I would eat there 2-3 days a week. I would love it. Right. It's the sloppiest, biggest, most like fattening probably sandwich ever. And like, I loved it. Because basically you're just doing it all at once. You're basically like eating your sandwich and your fries all at once. And like
everything,
your mouth's got to get like really big and you shove it all in there. But eventually, after living here for so long, like, I don't know. I'm sure that there's people that still go there religiously. We call those people yinzers around here. But eventually, like, I can't eat that. You just can't go there no more. It's kind of like, once you've had enough of it. Like, I'll take you there. If you come to Pittsburgh, I'll take you there.
I can't eat it anymore. I mean, they took everything out of my diet. I have the most boring diet around.
Well, let's just say, like, if a guest comes here, they want to have the Permani Brothers experience. That's the only time I ever go now. So
that's cool.
But it's really cool.
Yeah, I love that place. So Benny, your arena mastermind concept, and its impact on high achievers. It's a really cool concept. What brought this up? I mean, you've done so much for the industry. How did you come up with the arena mastermind?
Well, that's a good question. So during this transformation process, once I started meeting people in the industry, through IRE, through Best of Success, all these things that we do, that's where my knowledge, and that's where I was able to like kind of almost borrow beliefs and borrow systems and processes to implement in my own personal life and in my business to get me to the point where I'm at today. Right. And it was by leveraging these relationships and investing in these programs and these masterminds and coaches and mentors and all this stuff that I was able to like very quickly really transform my life and my business. And so I felt like, one of the things for me is why I want to give back to this industry so much is because it's given me so much. And part of that's because like, that's just where I was at in life. For some reason, like it landed me here in the roofing industry. And I'm like, all right. But also the people that I met in the roofing industry also helped me like open my eyes to like, hey, there's another life out here. Like you can do these things and like you can do them well and it can be professional and like you don't have to have all. So I was like, man, Like there's so many other entrepreneurs that have my story or similar stories, right? That like, especially in the roofing industry, because most people don't get, like, you were born into it. Most people don't get born into it. Most people like that's their
Yeah,
own, that's the last place that'll take them.
yeah, but you know what the worst thing is, Vinny? Once you're in this industry, I was telling a guest the other day, it's like quicksand. There's no way out of this industry. Once you're in it, you love it. And you said it earlier, and that's one of the reasons I like you so much is you like helping people, whether it's a big fish customer, whether it's me, whether it's Ryan Groth. Vinny's about helping and giving back. And that's what I respect so much about you. And you and I've talked for hours about marketing. Our family business is 78 years. Your business is 16 years.
8 years.
8 years, I'm sorry, 8 years.
Eight. Just a
And
baby.
your marketing strategies dwarf ours. And you and I talk about the strategies a lot. And I'm interested in what you could share with our audience of those who are thinking of implementing some new marketing strategies. What should they pay attention to?
Well, can I get back to why I started the mastermind real quick?
Yes.
So because all those things happened to me in the roofing industry, I'm like, all right, I got to create the ultimate contractor mastermind. I'm going to take all the good parts of everything I've learned, and because there's some bad stuff out there, right, in the industry too, right? Like there's some groups and some things that like you learn just like anything else, right? Like I want to extract all the good, take all the good, double down on that, eliminate some of the bad things that I saw in masterminds and coaching groups and things like that. And I want something that's super affordable. So that way every entrepreneur has access to the same people and to the same systems and processes, but for like a fraction of the cost and a fraction of the time commitment. And so that's basically what we created. And I co-founded that with Joseph Hughes of Contractor Dynamics. And we meet every Wednesday. And it's been really great because everyone can collaborate, share experiences. It's a place where entrepreneurs don't have to feel alone or weird. And everybody has a superpower, right? Just like you just mentioned, and I really appreciate you saying that. Like my marketing strategy may dwarf or may be better than yours, but guess what? I can also learn so many other things from you, and we can trade that knowledge, right? And we're able to help each other. And again, you have a big company, I have a small company, but we can trade knowledge that's both going to be able to help us. And that's what the Arena Mastermind is all about. We have guys that do $1 million in business. We got a guy in there trying to hit 100 million. He did 85 million last year in business. And we have, 40 to 50 people that hang out with us every week. And then when we do industry events and conferences, anybody that's going to be there, that's part of our mastermind, we always curate a really cool in-person experience to really drive that relationships. Because to me, relationships are the only thing that matter, and being consistent with those is like the key to like having a long, successful, joyous life. And so that's kind of what the Arena Mastermind is all about. As far as tips, you want me to give you some marketing tips?
Yeah, but let me just add one thing.
Yeah.
Everybody in that mastermind has one thing in common, 3 things in common: sell work, produce work, and keep score. Doesn't matter what the dollar amount is, right?
Yeah.
And it's still the same whether you're doing 1 million or 100 million. It just means you're doing more projects, but it's still exactly the same process. So anyway, marketing strategies.
Yeah.
So for our audience that are tuning in today, some of your best marketing strategies that you care to share that you don't want to give away to help your competition, but for those entrepreneurs who are thinking of starting their own business, a couple of marketing strategies that you've found beneficial.
Just so you know, I'll give everything away. Information's free, implementation's expensive.
It's hard to implement though, right?
Yeah, I mean, all the information's free. So here's the top few things that I did to get started. Here's what I would still do if I had to start over again. Like if you told me how I had to leave Pittsburgh, I don't know anybody. You're the only person I know that lives in San Diego, maybe a couple others.
I live in San Antonio.
If I had to go start a roofing company in San Antonio, Texas tomorrow, here's what I would do. I would invest in I would draw a 5-mile circle from wherever I live or wherever my office is going to be. And I would invest in those community sports teams. I would sponsor every kid's baseball team, soccer team, whatever I needed to do to get my name out there with the community. So the parents know that I care. I want to be involved. I want to just get to know people and network through that. Community events, right? Like I'm a big fan, like, let's say your Rotary or your Chamber of Commerce is having like a chili cook-off or something like that. Hey man, they always need sponsorship money because they're trying to fund these things, pay $500, whatever you got to do to get a booth, have a brand present, get out there talking with the people. It's very low cost. You know, the biggest cost is like you got to get out of your shell, right? And you got to go meet with the people. You got to be a politician a little bit. It's kind of like it's like ground game, old school, like grassroots campaign, right? Think about like the way those grassroots campaigns are done. And that's what you got to do. And then you got to tell that story on social media about providing education and value. You don't have to, and you have to be authentic. It doesn't have to be perfect. It doesn't have to be rehearsed. It doesn't have to be scripted. You know, Gary Vee always says, document, don't create. Just document what you're doing, document your engagement in the community. You know, jab, 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 right hook. So that means give value, give value, give value, and then tell them what you do and where to call and how they can buy from you. Don't just always be saying buy, 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 because 97% of your audience isn't ready to buy a roof this year. And then I think one underrated thing that I didn't do when I first started out, but now I would do, is what I call influencer marketing. And this is like where I would partner up with the real estate agents in town, the other contractors in town, local officials, right? I want to butter these guys up. I want to make them feel special. I want to maybe shine a light on them and what they're doing, so much so that they almost feel obligated to send their friends and family and people that they do business with to Big Fish to be able to do work. Because when you add so much value to someone, it's almost impossible for them not to return the favor. It's like the law of reciprocity. And so those are like the 4 different things that I feel like you should be able to do at a pretty low cost. It just takes a little bit of work, and it takes you wanting to love people and build those relationships.
Those are incredible. And it's funny, Benny, while I was waiting for you, because I sent you the wrong link to start, I got a request to sponsor a little league baseball team. So
You better
funny.
do it. I don't say no.
I actually did. I did do it.
Good.
So Benny, you talked about going to North Carolina on vacation earlier. Everybody that knows you knows that Brittany clearly wears the pants in your family. But if on that one chance that she let you plan the next family trip, you got one shot, where would it be and why?
Well, I'm actually planning one. So it's actually very interesting that this question came up. I'm planning a trip to LA in August to go to VCon. Gary Vee's having his 3rd conference there. It's right down where the Staples Center is. It's at LA Live.
Oh, that's a great place.
Yeah. Now listen, this isn't going to be, you know, a meditation and kumbaya type of place. This is going to be where the action is. This is going to be fast paced. This is going to be like, you know, staying in a nice hotel right down in the middle of the action. And so I have to plan it all because it's kind of like, that's kind of my thing. And so, you know, we're bringing the baby, we're bringing her mom. You know, I think we may be we're bringing Sammy, my 9-year-old. We're probably going to bring my niece, she turned 13 this year. And when my nieces and nephews turn 13, I always take them on a special trip with me and my family. So that way they can get a little experience. Cause all my nieces and nephews always want to, man, we wish we had the Benny life. You know, we want to hang out with Benny because Benny's always traveling. Benny's always doing this stuff. And so I always said, when you turn 13, I'll take you somewhere cool. We took my nephew, Jack, 2 years ago. He turned 13. We took him down to Sarasota in this nice resort, and he was in heaven. And so, yeah, we're going to go to VCon. We're going to go to LA. We're going to fly all the way across the country, and we're going to be there for a week. And so that's kind of what we're planning on doing.
That sounds pretty cool.
Yeah.
And so I'm also knowing you, Benny. I'm assuming that you have already got the Apple Vision Pro headset. Am I right?
Well, I actually have it right.
Do I know you?
I actually have it right here.
Okay.
I was gonna do the podcast, but I wasn't sure if this StreamYard app was gonna let me do it.
Is it cool?
I mean, it's pretty cool. I mean, oh yeah.
Oh my God! But
Brad, I'll do a Zoom call. Listen, I'll do a
now
Zoom
you look
call
like a big fish.
I'll do a Zoom call. I'll do a Zoom call with you one time, and I'll be like I'll be on the beach somewhere, and you won't even be able to tell because it'll have my AI version of myself. It'll look like I'm a professional, and it watches your mouth. Yeah, it's pretty incredible. The things that this thing can do. I'm just testing it out right now. I haven't played with it a lot. I got it right before IRE, and then I had to go fly to IRE, and I've been busy ever since. So I've only played with it once, but.
Oh my gosh. Oh God, Benny.
Of course I got it, Brad.
So Benny, I guess that leads to my next question. The intersection of technology and roofing evolving over the next decade. You talked about when you were with your uncle and Eagle View, and now we're talking about the glasses that actually also, all laughing aside, I do think they're going to change the industry. What do you think is going to happen over the next 10 years with technology and roofing? And you think that we're going to be bidding work and never even going to the house?
I mean, I did that back in 2016 when I first started because I was by myself and I didn't have a sales team. I didn't have an operations team. It was me and a crew. And I was able to generate so many leads that like I literally just called them up, did their Eagle View, took a shot, put a price on it and sent it to them. And they said yes. And I'm like, crap, now I got to go look at it. And I hope that it's okay. So I've already done business like that. It's not the most sustainable because, you know, every roof could be a little different. Sometimes you could, you know, there might be other challenges that you didn't see. And so you definitely want to go look, but I definitely think as far as the goggles go, I think we're still 10 years away from, maybe not 10, I should probably say 5 because it could go faster, but these are expensive goggles. So, I mean, these goggles cost $4,000.
Yeah, but I mean, think about a drone and actually coming right on top of something with those glasses on and being able to do so much with that technology when you
Well,
put all the
yeah,
technology together.
I do agree that there could be like enough drones in the air to where like you could say, hey, I want to rent this drone, and you know maybe it's controlled by a separate company because they have to do all the air, the aviation, the flying, and say, all right, cool. Like I need you to send a pilot. I'm going to put my goggles on. I need you to go look at this. Um, and that's going to be good enough. But like the thing I'm talking about from the customer experience, like I'm probably going to have I'm probably going to have 25 goggles at my office, and then we'll probably just overnight goggles to people's
That's what I
houses
mean. Yeah.
that
You can
can't
have that
afford the
conversation.
goggles. And then we'll say, hey, just put the goggles on, and we'll literally we'll walk your roof. If you want to walk your roof, like we can walk your roof. If you want me to sit at home in your kitchen table, you can come into my virtual office. I mean, they're already doing this in the metaverse. And so, like, I don't even know if you know what the metaverse is, but like you can already do these virtual meetings in the metaverse. Now with the goggles, it's going to even be more realistic. And with AI improvements over the next 5 years, the interaction between humans without having to be there is going to be incredible. But there's other things that I think that are even going to be sooner. Is going to be like AI is going to be, you know, we're already using AI in marketing. You know, you're able to write content a lot faster. You're able to come up with ideas faster because you can just tell it, hey, come up with 10 ideas on a roofing blog article on how to you know, do roof maintenance on a commercial roof. You know, you can it'll just start pumping out stuff, right? You still got to go in there, tweak it, edit it, put your spin on it, things like that. But it just helps speed up rather than you have to sit there and scratch your head and be like, what should I write about today? And so AI is already going to be able to assist with that. I think AI is going to be able to help in your CRM. You know, I know you're a big data guy. You build your own CRM. Like you're going to be able to use AI to make even better business decisions, right? Like Moneyball type of decisions. Customers are already going to be conversating like with text messaging. Like customers don't want to talk on the phone anyway, so they're going to be text messaging. That's all going to be an AI bot that the company programs to speak in their tone, their language, has all their reference material. You upload all your documents, all your processes. And here's the best part. If you start recording your conversations now with your salespeople and your phone girls in inter-office communications, and you record all that and you have all that, and then you upload it into your own Brad Beldon AI roofing robot, and they collaborate all that information when a customer comes in, like they're going to be able to optimize that. And then as it gets better, let's say the first time it comes out, they get half of it wrong. And then like you go and say, hey, robot, half of this is right. The other half's wrong. Improve this. By the time you do that over a 2-year period, it'll be at 99.999% success rate. You won't ever have to worry about it making a mistake. And if it does, you don't care because it's going to be way less mistakes than humans would make. And you're just going to be, customers will be chatting with robots.
So much for my 1% improvement every day, right? We'll never catch up to AI.
No, but but your 1% can be better, like on how to use the AI better.
That's true.
So, I mean, there's always levels to this stuff, but I mean, that's what can happen. You know, as far as like robots doing roofing, you know, I'm a lot less intrigued about that because I just feel like that's a lot more custom and like going to be a little bit harder to build. I think it's going to be easier for you to build like a Tesla robot for your house to be your butler than it will be to do a commercial roof or a shingle roof.
On a 9-on-12 or something. Yeah. I don't
Yeah,
know how
just
that's
because of all the different variations. Could they do it eventually? Sure, but like, who's going to invest that kind of infrastructure and that kind of money just to like see if it works before all this other stuff gets developed? So we're still gonna. What's cool is the guys nailing the roofs down. They have the job security.
Yeah, no, they do. They do.
They have amazing job security. What's going to happen is we're going to reduce our amount of salespeople. You're not going to need as many salespeople, if any. Maybe just one sharp guy running, make sure all the machines are running good, and make sure that, like, you know, machines are saying what we want. But you're going to increase your people in your marketing department that are working on AI and technology systems to make marketing even better. Your operations, you're still going to need project managers and service techs, like we talked about, but your coordination, like for a big company like you'll be able to cut down on as many inside office people that you're going to need. And in saying that, I don't want the people to get worried now. They should, if they are getting worried, they should figure out how to like not be replaceable and like figure out how to add value and how to be the guy to like, or the girl to like improve the machines and how to like infrastructure the computers behind the scenes, right? So we're going to have people, they're just going to be doing different tasks.
No, I agree with you. I think
Yeah, so
AI is gonna change.
that's what I see.
And I think that we'll all be better for it.
Yeah, I mean, it's no different than like, you know, how your grandpa's grandpa, right? Whoever started Beldon Roofing.
My grandfather,
When was he
1946.
when was he born?
1901.
1901. And whenever whenever the tractor came out, which probably came out
I'm
even
sorry, 1910.
when did the tractor come out?
I don't know.
Late 1800s?
Somewhere around there.
Whatever. All I know is that when the tractor came out, do you know how many people were worried about their jobs?
Everybody.
Everybody. That's all
Yeah.
they were doing. They were just working in
Yeah.
the fields all day.
Yeah.
Guess what? Ain't nobody complaining about going back to working in the fields anymore, are they, Brad?
No. Tractors really helped their job. Yeah. And they've gotten better at it.
Exactly. But people
Yeah.
find other things to do because there's other things evolving and we need to work on those things. And so again, there's always going to be the laggards and the people that are scared and afraid. There's always going to be the visionaries and the innovators. It's always going to be like that. For history tells you that it's going to be like this. So AI is no different. It's no different than when your dad probably said, a credit card. I'm not paying with a credit card. I want to write a check. You know, like he was probably like that for a couple years.
And Benny, I know when you say that, you really mean it, because you recently posted, I don't know, maybe it was a month ago, you were talking about something to the effect that a bunch of challenging things were happening at Big Fish and in the course of a year, and how disruptive it was, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And then you said something that I thought was really, really cool, is that your team handled it in stride. To me, this speaks about an incredible culture at Big Fish. And it's exactly what you're talking about, right? You're not looking to replace people with AI. You're looking to make their work environment a better environment for them. And maybe that instead of working 10, 12-hour days, they're working 9-hour days, 8-hour days, and the work-life balance gets better because of AI. There's so many things that can come out of AI that could be beneficial. Doesn't mean it's going to replace jobs, but I think it will make everybody's life better.
Well, I think the right people that are adding value to the culture and to the team are always going to be needed. I think it's going to put pressure on the people that, you know,
The
are slackers, you know, I mean, or the people that like need to level up. I mean, those are the people that need to be afraid. The people that are, you know, Team Beldon, Team Big Fish, like run into a burning building, like we'll do whatever it takes. Like those people are fine. Those people got job security forever because those people will figure out how to make anything work. I think what it's going to do is we're going to be able to increase those people's pay. We're going to not need as many as the slackers. And like, instead of paying a bunch of people $80,000 a year, I'll be able to pay one guy 160 and get rid of the slacker. And guess
everybody
what?
wins.
It will actually get more work done. And it'll be a lot less challenging. We won't need as many managers, and it'll make everything more efficient. We can drive costs down to our customer. We can do more work, do better work, and have a great life.
I agree with you. Oh my gosh, you have a different perspective on life than most people. Benny, what an incredible story. What's next for Benny? Are there any upcoming projects, initiatives that you're excited about other than going to California. You said you're traveling all the way across the country. For Pete's sakes, Benny, you live in Pittsburgh. It's
I'm
not
not
that far
driving. I'm flying.
it's not that far to
Oh
California.
no, I'm flying, but it's still a 5-hour flight. That's far, man. But anyway, yeah. So I'm gonna be. Have you heard? Are you familiar with EOS, the Entrepreneur Operating System?
Benny, I heard you're speaking there. Is that
Yeah, I'm
true?
speaking there. Yeah, I'm the opening keynote speaker in April.
Oh my gosh. Okay. Okay. We'll end on this. Okay. That is super cool. How the heck did they how'd you get that?
I didn't listen. I'm telling you, the universe, God, I don't know. They called me up and said, "Hey, would you be interested in speaking at EOS conference?" And here's what happened. They did this in August. They said they reached out to me. They said they asked me to be a guest on a podcast. And so I did, kind of like what you just did. They wanted to hear my story, my EOS story, all this stuff. And, a month or two later, they go, "Hey, we'd be interested in having you speak at the conference." I just assumed, because I've been at the conference a couple of years, I just assumed they wanted to hide me in one of those little breakout rooms. Because they have like 100 breakouts, and it's one of the best conferences I've ever been. It's probably the best conference I've ever been to that has the most impact and the most nuggets and like just purebred information. They're not selling anything. It's just pure learning, and it's fun. And so I just assumed it was a breakout. I'm like, yeah, sure, I'd love to speak. I don't know, 2 months goes by, I hear nothing back from anybody. And I'm like, oh, I told my executive assistant, I'm like, oh, that's okay. They probably found someone way better than me. Like I said, I'm still new to this public speaking thing. And around Thanksgiving time, this lady calls me up and she goes, "Hey, we've selected you to be the a keynote speaker." And I go, "Oh, keynote. Like, yes, that's incredible. I'm not sure why you picked me, but yeah, honored to do it. Hopefully I can do a good job for you." And I said, "I've never been professionally trained, or like, I'm not some like, I'm not like Tony Robbins, or I'm not like, one of these, I'm not John Maxwell." And she's like, no, we want you just to be you. We love you. We love your story. We think you're going to be great. And she's like, "Oh, by the way, you're the opening keynote speaker. Gino Wickman's going to be the closing keynote speaker."
Oh, wow.
I go, "Oh,
Gino is
so now
the founder of EOS, and you."
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. You gotta do something about that. I mean, you gotta say at the beginning, "Hey, Gino, they picked me. You're at the end, nobody's still gonna be here. They're all catching their flights home. They're all here to see me."
Yeah, I think so. I've been to the conference 2 years in a row, and they've always have the first person that opens it. It's always a pretty cool entrepreneur that has a pretty incredible journey, because I think what they want to do is set the tone for the conference for everybody being there. Be like, "Hey, this is the whole reason you want to interact with the community. This is the whole reason you want to get disciplined on some of these principles on how to grow and scale your business." And so I think they want to hear it from someone that's like been there, done that, got the t-shirt. Gino then always comes and gives his word of wisdom, at the end. And I do believe that it is just an incredible, humbling, amazing opportunity to where, like, for most people, like, this is the mountaintop. Like, this is like, wow, man, like, you've made it. But for me, because of all the ups and downs I've had in my life, I realized that there's no such thing as there's a mountaintop. But what happens is once you get to the mountaintop, you then pull your head up above there, and then guess what? You basically feel like you're at the bottom of the mountain, because then you just see another mountain.
Well,
and so at the same time, it's going to be very, very meta, because it's like, man, I've reached this really cool spot. There's going to be 2,500 people there. They all paid $2,000 a ticket to be there. They're all CEOs and COOs and EOS people. And they're going to hear from this guy. And I have no idea what's going to come out of my mouth. And I have no idea what kind of impact is going to be made, but I'm not worrying about that. I'm just kind of letting God do that. And I'm just going to serve.
Oh my God. But I hope that you tell people that I hope you have them stand up and do stretches, because they're going to be laughing so hard they might pull a muscle in their back.
Well, I'm glad that you're entertained, Brad. It's really a pleasure to have become friends with you. If I would have ever told myself that I'd ever be friends with someone of your stature and someone of your, like, I don't know, expertise and elegance, I would have told you, like, if when I was a kid, I'm like, that's crazy. I would never be able to hang out with a guy like that. So this is a dream come true, to be able to even be your friend, but then to be on your show. And so thank you so much for that, man.
Well, Benny, I can't thank you enough. And Benny, I feel the same way about you. I'm honored to call you my friend. I'm so appreciative that you got to the top of the mountain and you're on the Brad Beldon Show. and I'm thanking you for your valuable perspectives on entrepreneurship, leadership, and really, quite frankly, Benny, thank you for your insight on life. You know, you've had just an interesting life, and you've said, I'm not going to let it impact me. I'm going to learn from it. I'm going to get better tomorrow. Thanks for tuning in today. And as my friend Judd Ashmore used to say, hug somebody. It'll make you feel better.